Okay, I saw a tweet from former Governor Andrew Cuomo. This was January 7th, 2022. For the last several weeks, we have remained silent while the process played itself out. Do not confuse our respect for the justice system with the acquiescence. Stay tuned. This is Rich Azzopardi. He's a like a senior advisor for Cuomo, and now he started a new company, Crisis Communication or something. Now that he found a way to monetize the situation. I mean, this is the thing. If I had been willing to play the game and play nice with the alt left or the alt right, yeah, I would have been able to monetize. But that's not what I came to DC to do. That's, in fact, I'm furious because I never thought 15 years. I mean, all I wanted was that my rights be respected in the courts. And I know everybody, oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. No, my case, I mean, I'm sorry, it's cost me a lot, money-wise, $10 billion in counting, people, in damages. So that kind of begs the question of why can't I find one of these greedy lawyers to take my case? Everybody be cashing in, and they all say, oh, Lord, yeah, lady, when you get your international court jurisprudence, we'll all go to town. But everybody's too afraid. They're not going to go up against the Americans, and they're not going to go against the Europeans. My case is in Spain, and my beef is with the Americans. Well, Spanish courts, but complicity of the American government and the French government, because I and my children have French nationalities, in not defending our rights, where they have an obligation under the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, and the power and authority to do so under the Vienna Convention of Consular Relations. All this cacophony. See, I had my case made by 2012. Just submit. Now, we'd already had the 2011 Gonzalez-Linehan versus USA. That was the first jurisprudence on violence against women and human rights violations. And we got the 2014 Gonzalez-Carreño versus Spain. And I'd shoot that thing down. I won't go into that because I go into it all the time. But I demonstrate the Spanish defense bullshit on every point, and let's attack. This is what I keep on saying to that was women's linked worldwide against Spain, and Gary Betts said we don't have control. The federal government doesn't have control over its courts at the state level and local level. I'm like, wow, they've just negated their raison d'etre under the U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights. Let's go at them. Ask any boxer. You don't throw a punch, or any man who knows how to really fight. You don't throw a punch and then go and then wimp out. You throw a punch, you better be in for the otherwise you're gonna get the shit knocked out of you. So, I mean, it's a shame because Andrew Cuomo, he has tough talk, but just like everybody else, when push comes to shove, he's going to play nice so he can keep a possibility of staying in the game I mean, even if his political career was finished, he'd still have money supply coming in from books or, consulting, or, he would be able to figure out a way to monetize. That's why women like me are being silenced. So anyway, I won't go in. You can look at his latest tweet. He's got some other people. Oh, God, I get so many pop-ups. It's really annoying. Techie liberalism is driving us freaking crazy. So my response in a tweet, I think I just posted that this morning or something. When I saw it, I was like, oh Lord. That's why I was like, I got so much to do. I got to find a job, because I won't brown nose and oh yeah, okay, I'm just going to turn a blind eye to violation of due process within our court system. I mean, this is where I get into John Dickinson and the importance, because that's important to parliamentary debate. However, the people who are in your political system normally, is another thing we have, all since they're not doing their jobs, the people with legal backgrounds and political science backgrounds, now you have everybody else coming in and they don't understand anything, the academic basis or the legal basis, a lot of this stuff. So it's all over the freaking map. The bartenders, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that's who's leading the country. So my response was, don't confuse acquiescence with efforts of feminists in government agencies, government offices, and judicial systems, because, it's in the legislative and the executive branch. Hierarchy up and down as much as in the judicial system to rule the world, because this is, the feminists who have gotten into these government, public sector and private sector, they want to have it all and grapple with the ladder of success and show that they can have it all. I'm like, yeah, ladies, when I get you into court, you're producing 70 to 90% cacophony in the workplaces, and you're screwing up your kids. So where are you having it all? And that's why you want to silence the homemakers and the women in society who are not trying to make as much money as they possibly can so they can buy all jet set or buy all sorts of luxury products and beauty creams. I mean, say these are trillion-dollar industries that are inundated with bullshit. I can't use any of that stuff. It irritates my skin. Aveeno soap, and I can't even find that now because the markets are, even Aveeno just distributes their luxury stuff because, yeah, it's a higher markup. Women do not need all of that crap. Oh, God. And the problem is men don't want a woman with a brain. They want some bimbo Barbie doll who how is this liberating women? So don't confuse acquiescence with efforts of feminists and government agency to rule the world with respect for a judicial system which doesn't respect due process. I mean, how can you have respect for a corrupt system? That's protection racket. That's mob rule. Ghislaine Maxwell and Prince Andrew are other victims. And I sent him my my latest, the emails that I had sent to Ghislaine Maxwell and Prince Andrew's lawyers at the beginning of their cases, just like I did to Rita Glavin, Andrew Cuomo's lawyer, who just ignored me. I mean, in the Cuomo case, it was a little bit different because for example, particularly in Ghislaine Maxwell's case, I offered to go and be a witness as an expert witness, somebody totally impartial, but exposing how Ghislaine Maxwell is being used as a scapegoat and a sacrificial lamb. Scapegoat in the sense of they're going after her because, of the luxury, jealousy of all of the lives of the rich and famous, and that she represents and she was a part of. Yes, she was a part of, but she's not responsible for it. Cornelia Guest is so much more responsible. Ethel Kennedy, Eunice Kennedy, the Kennedy, all the Kennedy ladies, Nancy Reagan, Caroline Kennedy. I mean, I even got her. She's up creek without a paddle when she was ambassador in Tokyo. Because one of the cases that I've been trying to get justice for is there. So, sure, I know in Andrew Cuomo's mind is, and this gets into Queen Elizabeth and, distancing herself now from Prince Andrew. We don't want to get involved in any unpleasantness, and we'll just wait until the gossiping goes away and move on with it. Now, I totally agree with that in the social circles of vicious backstabbing ladies like the expat wives clubs. Particularly, this gets into my story of the year that I was president of Bogota Gay. That was 2002. Wait a second, because I'm thinking, yeah, that would have been 2002. It was the same year that Ingrid Betancourt was presenting herself as the presidential candidate in Bogota, and I supported her on her anti-corruption and peace agenda. She didn't have a snowball's chance in hell, but she did an excellent PR thing in France with her books there, and got all of the publicity there. And I mean, that's how she really got any traction when she came back to Bogota, because she had been such a press success in France. And so, you have to recognize that was a great PR coup. But if you don't have any substance behind your PR work, well, it's going to come and bite you in the ass at the end of the day. I mean, we're going 40 years of the rise of the Fourth Reich. So yes, everybody thinks they're untouchable because it's been going on for so long, their entire lifetime. This is why, like, monarchies do become important. They're there for their entire lives, not just for 4 years, 8 years. You can't oust them. But if they're not overseeing anything that's going on in their country, well, they're not doing their jobs. And it's not getting up on the balcony and waving and a charity work, that the development community showed back in the 60s and 70s. You need socioeconomic. I mean, that's the rhetoric, but nobody does it. It's now we got empire building of everybody up until the 80s. The 80s, it really started the globalization, you know, the wealth, the artificial wealth of like bitcoins. Now we're with bitcoins, but the artificial wealth has been bubbling and bubbling and bubbling, and these bubbles will eventually pop. But you know, this has been going on for so long, everybody just thinks that it is what it is. I'm like, you guys, that's why we're heading towards another civil war and World War III. So anyway, back to Cuomo. So this was again January 7th. Rita Glavin's response to today's dismissal. No jury would have found Ms. Comiso credible. That's why this case was dismissed. Today, the rule of law prevailed, not politics, rhetoric, or mob mentality. Well, see, they're not going to be good for Rita Glavin. I'll get all of this into the international courts as one of the cases that I've been examining. Oh, and there are a lot. I mean, for me, the high profile cases are just as important as the individual cases. And that's where I differ with everybody else. And also it's not just whether it's family court, it's any of the courts, because this is just, it's across the board. There's the same issues, same problems in terms of lawyers, judges, rights of litigants, everything. So for me, this is, you know, it's just another case. So, you know, again, the courts are being used for political, financial, or personal gain through malicious litigation. It's not the rule of law. Even, you know, the prosecutors, for example, Cuomo's case, you know, and I already went into that, the first one that I did for him. I mean, if they had launched, if his daughters who are to do their social media influencing on the SDGs and diversity and inclusion and all that crap, I mean, those girls are going to have a problem when this whole thing collapses. See, he's not just hung himself out to dry, he's hung his daughters out to dry in this whole thing, because he had the opportunity to step up and take the leadership that this country needs. I mean, my Lord, right before, like a week before the elections, Biden, Trump, I went online and I said, well, I'm announcing my candidacy as, you know, for president of the United States, because either way this goes, it's gonna go bad. My sisters are like calling me the next day or something of like, do you have illusions of grandeur? I cracked up. I was like, see, that's what I'm up against. And that's the Republican side, but I'm up against it on the Democrats and the liberals as well. Like, such denigration. Who are you? Who are you? I'm like, well, who are you? They're a little snot-nosed brat. I was just scurrying around like a little rat trying to cash in. We're on a whole different plane, little girl, and you want to play with the big times, and you do that, you're gonna get burned. You're being burned, and you're burning everybody around you with your little Machiavellian games with me. But I was like, of course not. I mean, I'm only putting this out on YouTube. I mean, a week before. I mean, you guys, like, think about your logic for a second. A week before the elections, I'm going to go on YouTube. I have no following whatsoever because I'm centrist and I want to get in bed with the right. I want to get in bed with the left, figuratively and literally. And yeah, I no, I'm doing this as a protest and documenting that I know at this point this is going to go bad. And I mean, that giggling little, oh gosh. I mean, aren't any of the other Americans out there embarrassed in the international arena? What we've been putting out as our leaders, our presidents? I mean, it keeps on going downhill. I mean, at least Obama put up a good front. Yeah, Obama and before, you know, how shall I say it? They at least gave the facade of being respectable. And this is the same thing with Cuomo. Excuse me. Yeah, he gives the facade. He you know, he toughs. Oh, you know, I'm from, what is it, Queens. No, you don't mess around with me. Excuse me, buddy. And you can ask anybody out there in Spain. And I mean, look, they're trying to throw me in prison. Well, first it was a psychiatric ward, then it was in prison, because this stuff with Ghislaine Maxwell. So this is where I really have a problem, because they want to throw her in prison for the rest of her life. I mean, this isn't just about getting money like in the with Prince Andrew, and they're sucking him dry. And Andrew Brettler, he's going to have problems as well. Explain this. You put me on out there in the social media arena. I mean, I'm doing what his mother should be doing. Going, you don't mess with my son and you don't mess with my grandson, because both of them are being messed with in the United States. And you know, Meghan Markle, I was looking at, what was it? Yeah, Death of the Liberal Class, about Oprah Winfrey. We got a cesspool. This is what my letter to Prince Charles was about after Trump got into office. That was January 2018. I think I you know, because it's a long letter. I mean, it parallels John Dickinson olive branch, going, Houston, we got a problem. And okay, you're no longer our parent. We separated, we gained our independence from you, but then we got back in bed with you. So we ended up in the same place. But Houston, we got a problem. And First World War happened because of this. Second World War happened because of this. And we're headed towards the Third World War. Now, if everybody in Buckingham Palace wasn't as brain dead as everybody in the White House, it would have gotten, you know, I'm sure Prince Charles would read that, and if Prince Andrew would read the blogs that I wrote for him, and Sean Penn would have read those in 2016. I mean, see, this is what a real social media influencer is: a dowager, a debutante who injects, who brings all of the who's who and what's happening, and the intersectional approach that everybody talks about in the international community. And but they're all too with their intellectual property theft and grappling up the ladder of success to work together. Nobody's working together. And that's part of it, is managerialism. You got so many people out there trying to get jobs to sit at desk with a coat and tie and not work in the fields. And that's why the agrarians are getting more and more pissed off, and country's going to shit because you do need a balance. So anyway, yeah, Rich Azopardi, you know, Cuomo, Azopardi, the Kennedys, all of that, that's the Catholic influence. They are just providing proof for the alt-right that the Catholic influence has been a negative effect. And the Obamas and all of the black and brown, because they're kind of together, being divided, but it depends. There's factions there, and those are all of the Democrats and the liberals, are just proving that the superiority of the white race. And that's when the alt-right is going to jump in when things get to such an extent and chaos. That's when the alt-right is going to step in and say, oh, see, we told you so, we told you so. See, we're superior. And that is not the case. I mean, my ancestry is, and believe me, I'm not they're looking at this. They're just shutting up because they want the cacophony to get so bad and the chaos to get so bad and the violence to get so bad. Then that's when you get the military dictatorship that gains its legitimacy. So that a lot of them on the alt-right, because this gets back to economics with the Scottish. You go in English, Scottish, Irish, these different influences. You did have the Enlightenment in France as well, but it went more extremist, and it also, a lot of it was because Adam Smith is from Scotland. The founding fathers, the Puritan movement, that is all from the English influences. I mean, I'm all over the frickin' map with that. The Wilcoxes, the Pauls, the Dickinsons. My mom's family is the Scallons from Ireland. And that's where, I understand a lot about the Catholic and their problems and the Puritan conflict, because even that's, that was one that was omnipresent with my mother's, efforts to destroy my father and me, because we are hardworking, dedicated, and the Catholics, and this is the problem with Southern Europe and Northern Europe, the industrious, because that goes before the Industrial Revolution, North, and black market, Roman Catholicism, which was started in the 5th century under the last emperor of Rome, Constantine, in last-ditch efforts to save the empire, not by any, dedication to the principles of Jesus Christ. In fact, it was totally the opposite. So of course that didn't work out well. Just like the human rights movement hasn't worked out well for the same reason. So it's all related. But even with the Spaniards, my favorite was in Bogota, where the Spanish women, the Spanish expat corporate women and diplomatic corps women, they couldn't stand me. And not some paranoia on my part. I mean, it was common knowledge in the community, believe me. I'm like, oh Lord, if I had a penny, even a penny for every person who hated me, because I had to always be doing something. And if I'm gonna do something, I get it done, and they're all putzing around, still trying to figure out what the hell they're gonna wear. Um, uh, so yeah, that's a common, it's a common theme between the Catholics and Protestants. I mean, with this, because all of that goes back to the Puritan movement, Calvinism, those different movements, which was a backlash to the hedonism, the same paradigm that we've got a backlash to right now. See, it's it doesn't matter if it's religious or secular, it's all the same. Same human story and same issues. And if we don't resolve it and stop sweeping it on the carpet like Cuomo wants to do with the case, I'm like, no, you face these things. See, when it gets the Bogota guy and backstabbing bitches who want to oust me as president of a volunteer social group, uh, yeah, but there's a line that let him spit upon me. I mean, it's usually a tiny, small group of people, and the rest. I mean, why would everybody have asked me to be president? Because it didn't go, the diplomatic corps, the corporate wives were scandalized. And I'm like, well, you present yourself. Come on, raise your hand. Go ahead. I don't want to do it. This whole leadership. I'm like, all of these people want to be leaders. No, they want to be bosses. Like anybody who says that they want to be a leader, you shouldn't trust. The only ones that you should trust said, no, I don't want to be a leader. But if nobody around here can get their shit together and somebody's got to take charge, well, then I'll go ahead. But if I want to come in and be some dictator or some leader and start bossing everybody around, no, I'm very happy tending to my children and my garden and my animals. And so your best leaders are the ones who are like, yeah, only if necessary, then I'll step in if nobody else can handle it. So it's this whole thing is just absolutely ludicrous. And what is just so ludicrous is that this is a freaking governor of New York. One of the, I think one of the New York, California, these are the biggest economies of the United States, and that they should be, how shall I say, well, definitely the most economically powerful, but with that comes with political power. But you see, I mean, I was very, very, like, come on, step up, show. And you say, no, this is not gonna, this is against due process. And the process goes through. Oh, I mean, totally. I mean, I even think if I had been advising, I would have said, okay, yeah, resign, because it's going to get, the reason that he resigned was right, because then it would have gotten into, there was just too many issues that they're dealing with COVID, that it would have exhausted so many resources. So yeah, stop down. However, don't remain silent on the issue, which is important here, fundamentally important within the context of upholding the Constitution and Bill of Rights instead of assisting in its subversion, is, excuse me, this is a problem of due process. And what are we about? What is, are the fundamental bases of our society. And if you are attacked by malicious litigation and say, no, I'm just going to roll over and fork out the money or go to prison, like everybody expects Ghislaine. I mean, I even sent an email. I've been ignored by her family and friends as well as lawyers. I'll never stop fighting to get her liberated, because apparently we do have we'll see if this pans out, because I mean, I've been trying to get human rights lawyers to go to the international courts for over a decade. When we get there, then she would be liberated, because her there's just been too many problems with, I mean, just that's also one of the reasons why I jumped in and made sure that I sent emails and keep sending emails to her family and friends, her lawyers, saying this is information that is necessary for the courts. This is information that's necessary for the courts. So there is this concealment issue now with it. Now I'm hoping to get journalists to cover that, because that's another issue of establishing a mistrial for her. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. This is, I'm a barrister, if you will, of developing the argumentation. This is where it's important. And this is where the lawyers are like this. And I'm like, well, you know what? That because I know what I'm doing in arguing this, but proper procedures through court systems is where the lawyers have to work with the barristers, unfortunately, because in the United States, you find that in England and in Spain. I found that. And first I was like, what the frick is a procurador, except somebody else is going to charge me money to stab me in the back. So it is important, but see, the barristers or the abogados, don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, we have an underground railroad of victims fleeing with their children. And this is all colors. How is that different from what was done to the Black slaves and Black slave women who had their children taken away from them? I mean, this is another explanation what I want from all of these Black, all lives, or Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. I'm like, yeah, what you want is to position the conversation that only Black Lives Matter, as payback to before of only white lives matter. And it's tearing the country apart. I mean, Washington, little Black bitches. I mean, Safeway is going to have problems with escalating the violence, because the people that they have working in there, I mean, as I tell all, the post office is bad, FedEx is bad. There's a kind of like the transportation system in DC that's really the monopoly is the Blacks. I mean, they are so rude and disrespectful. That's not what this country is about. I mean, this country used to be top in consumer service. And a lot of it is Oprah Winfrey, Meghan Markle, Michelle Obama. But see, all of this coming from the alt left, that's contributing to the breakdown in the rule of law, the friction between the races, because it's not white trash. It's not a race issue. It's a class issue. And since everybody thinks class means having lots of money going to fancy restaurants, treating people like they're beneath you, and luxury living, it's tearing the country apart. And it's being exported. I mean, I've seen this, the narcissism epidemic. I don't have that book here. I got it. You know, it's me, and more and more and more for me. And then I'm going to buy green. I'm going to start some website about how green we are. I keep on saying, you know what, with the green bullshit, tell it to the little green men up there, because we ain't buying it anymore. You know, I just keep on wanting shutting me up. And even now we're seeing in a lot of the literature, and I guess with Congress, yeah, it's the social media platforms that are feeding in to the extremism. But, and this is where it gets into, well, yeah, once again, Attorney General Garland and FBI Director Wray, you have my solicitation. I did that. Well, it's, you know, the report came out in March 2021. I mean, I jumped on that one. I forget, you know, maybe a month or two to put that together, but I want an investigation into all of the violent extremists in Washington, D.C., little terrorist cells that I know and whose names I have, who have documented their bullshit and their cacophony and their little games and their little Machiavellian games to become the power, you know, masters of the universe. I don't care what color what color, what nationality. As I say, I am not racist. I'm not classist. I'm not. If you're doing something immoral or illegal, drain you. If not, welcome to the game, and let's clean this bullshit up. Yeah, as State Congressman Chris Miller, husband of U.S. Congresswoman Mary Miller, said, this is a fight for a way of life. And in that I agree totally, as I agree with Mary Miller Hitler comment of, you know, you have the youth in your hand and you hold the key to the future. And this is where, with the Ghislaine Maxwell case, the prosecution, I agree with totally. Yes, you're right. So why aren't you taking this to a political level? Because what she's contending, I forget who the prosecution is, but I'm sure it's a woman. Sure, ask any victim of the courts. Oh Lord, the women lawyers and judges and prosecutors, all the women in the judicial system and the court system, the worst bitches you want to meet. So we know, and we have all of the documentation of that. And that's part of the problem. The second time that's why I was like, Kamala Harris is vice president. Black and brown, that's Indian, Hindu, Buddha, and all of that. Well, that gets into Laura Nader, sister of Ralph Nader, and her book, The Life of Law and Mediation. So I won't deviate, but yeah, that's problematic. And we see this Buddha and Islamic Muslim that in the Middle East. So, you know, this is again not anything against Kamala Harris or her. These are the traditions and the customs and cultures and ideologies that are coming from the traditions of these people. and who are all, and this is where Trump is right, that, the foreigners are trying to take over the country. And this is, an actual phenomenon, because everybody comes and wants to come to the land of opportunity and cash in. And they're just following the lead of the gold rush, the Gilded Age, and all of those problems. But without realizing that that group of whites had usurped power from the Puritans and the Quakers. So this is where there is this legitimacy of the alt-right of, no, we want to take, our country was founded on the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, and you're trashing it. You're using it as toilet paper. We want our country back. So, this is, I've given up hope on anybody who's been in power for any amount of time to be able to understand what I'm talking about, because everybody's just, it's just, Washington is a cesspool, as is New York, of money. Money makes the world go round, the world go round, the world go round. See, we're back in Berlin. So this was, there was a post by this Abigail Baker, that was in reference to Cuomo and this Rich Azzopardi. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. If that doesn't describe Rich Azzopardi, I don't know what does. Congrats, my friend. So apparently she's friends with him. Well, I'm like, excuse me, I don't see how he's gotten tough. He's hung Cuomo out to dry, because apparently, he's been advising him on what he should do in communications. But since he didn't read anything that I sent him and told him about what's going on in terms of lots of little ladies going to the international courts on all of the problems in the court system, and if Cuomo doesn't grow a pair, he's an adversary. I'm not looking for a fight with anybody. I'm just like, you want to be in the game, there's responsibilities and obligations. Otherwise, stay home and tend your garden, and manual labor, an honest day and honest, honest day and honest pay, and don't want to grapple up the ladder of success and have these positions where you're either putting yourself in jeopardy because you're in public service, or you're putting yourself in jeopardy because you're in private companies, corporate companies. That's most problematic, but you see it even, it's, the violation of rights of workers trickles down into the small businesses. So I'm like, if you can't do, or you can't do the crime, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. You can't, what was that I forget which the TV series was, but if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. So wouldn't it be better if all the bigwigs on both sides of the pond concentrated on crisis prevention instead of producing chaos and crises that then need managing? Where have all the leaders gone, Lee Iacocca? As I said, I was dismayed to see that Cuomo didn't grow a bear, because he did, in terms of the administrative, as a long-time civil servant, this is going to be one of the problems. And this is why, me presenting myself to be, president of the United States. I mean, that was in protest. You know, you put me queen, you put me dictator, I wouldn't put myself there because everybody has their different functions in a society. I got out of that. And there is a lot of things that you need to know. Right now I'm looking at, oh gosh, looking for a job, and there was this thing, sell insurance. I won't go into that, but at least I'm getting the insurance license and learning that, because I know all of the other different financial markets and instruments. So, from that, not, that's not a career choice for me. But anyway, I'm interested. But this is another thing. It's a complex, you have to know the products, but then you also have to know, because there's the whole side. For example, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, that goes into it. But there's a lot of stuff I'm like, wait a second, how is it this being managed and administrated? And I got 1,000 questions. So if we had a revolution and you get rid of everybody, as you saw in China, as you see in every revolution, then you've gotten rid of everybody, and you don't have anybody left who does have experience in these different, arenas and different government. It's not the institutions, the structures there, the institutions are there. Not everybody in there are bad people. A lot of them are. And this is what you need to get rid of. And this is, I got, oh Lord, every place I know, any place that I've worked at, ask the workers in there. And then, oh yeah, go ahead and ask Quimby. She'll tell you. This is why the FBI doesn't call me. I got one phone call from the security people over at GW asking if I'd been on campus. I was like, how do you guys know where I am? It's my first question. The guy who called me was so flustered by the conversation. Are you just threatening him? I'm like, of course, I'm delivering a freaking letter, you idiot. And then I start, oh, and you know who you should be investigating, and you know who's a problematic, and you know who's a problematic. So see, this is where, with the whole interrogation stuff, tactics that they have, that's all they know how to do. Then waterboarding. I'm like, oh, bye. You don't have to waterboard me, little boy. Bring me over a cup of tea, and I'll spill the beans on everybody I know. Right and left and up and down and woo. Let me tell you, and then about that one. Oh, my Jewish friends at GW, they used to crack me up with that one when they'd imitate. I was like, oh Lord, I think the Jewish women are the biggest gossipers I've ever heard of. And that's beating it. Because the Spaniards can do their share, and the American, the waspy, all those, they can do their share. I mean, gossip. But see, this is what I've learned from being a woman in this lifetime. And I always said the only reason I ended up with girlfriends was because I went to a girls' boarding school and was a stay-at-home mom for many years. And if I didn't have any friends amongst the women, I would have been really, really, well, as lonely as I am right now. I mean, I have my children, but you know, anybody who's been around babies for a long time, having somebody who just speaks back to you for an hour a week is a nice treat. So I unfortunately don't have much respect for women. I'm kind of like Plato in that, but my solution is not like all of the other misogynistic women out there. Let's just destroy them and throw them in jail, like with Ghislaine Maxwell, because we don't like her, or we're going to use her as an example to atone for the sins of the same crap that we're pulling. I mean, come on, Megyn Kelly even gets out there after the movie comes out about, you know, the Ailes. Everybody makes a killing off of that one, and says, when she was criticized of being like, well, why would you, you know, if my boss unzipped his trousers and said go for it, I'd be like, thank you, goodbye, take your job and shove it. And gone home, told my husband, and like, you know, I don't care if we eat, you know, beans and rice, but I'm not selling my body any more than I'm selling my soul. Anybody who sells their body is going to sell their soul. I mean, you know, well, that's not true. That's not true. Anybody who sells their soul, they'll sell their body. There are people who sell their bodies out there who won't sell their souls. If they get hungry enough, any woman who sleeps with somebody, put food on the table for her children, or provide for her children and you know, family, that is not a whore by any means. And I you know, I've met women and talked with women who have been in that situation, and they are not whores. Now, the little ladies that I know who marry their meal tickets or grapple up the ladder of success with either brown nosing and selling their souls or selling their bodies and the services, those are whores. Princess Margaret calls them tarts. I'm a little more grossière American. So, I mean, see, Rita Glavin, my issue with this case that really pisses me off is Rita Glavin normalizes the fact that the lawyers that brought, you know, who represented these girls and brought this case to the prosecutor, you know, of course would do it, even though these things are ridiculous. Hugging at an Italian wedding. Oh my Lord, and my Lord, and my Lord. If we're that crazy, we got no hope. The other is touching, you know, uncomfortable touching. I mean, where isn't it one of Cuomo's daughter, a diversity social media influencer expert? I mean, excuse me, I've lived amongst, and ask anybody I know, I whether it be Muslims or Jewish people, or, you know, it doesn't matter the religion, it doesn't matter the nationality, because, for example, the Latins, whether it be the Latins in South America, you know, in the Americas, or Europe with the Southern Europeans, you know, there's a whole distancing thing. For example, it's much more uncomfortable, you know, the Northerners, you have just when you're talking to somebody, there's a bigger distance. And I remember even, some of my South American, the girlfriends mainly, back in the 80s, particularly, I was like, because they'd be like right on you. And so, because it makes you feel uncomfortable, that's just a narcissistic bullshit stuff. If we really want diversity and to be able to respect other people's cultures, we have to respect that, somebody who may talk to us a little bit closer, that we're, accustomed to in our culture. It's not because they're trying to be offensive. That's cultural understanding. That's cultural understanding 101. So that's a whole other thing that I'm like, this is freaking ridiculous. And the other culture has to also understand that maybe their there's a mutual understanding from both sides. But just because it's not what you're accustomed to doesn't mean that, oh well, it made me uncomfortable. That is the old of all of you people have to be like the white people, and this is the appropriate culture. No, and the more and more we're together, and I think this is probably also the difference between the 80s, the more and more that the normal people, not the wacko, because this is a minority, well, in the corporate world and the diplomatic world in Washington and in New York, it's gotten to be a majority, and that's the problem. And they're trying to normalize that their aristocracy, because that's what it is, a new aristocracy. But so Rita Glavin saying that, of course, these lawyers bring these ridiculous cases to prosecutors or to the courts because every woman has the right to be believed. That's like her coming up and punching me in the face. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, little lady. Now, I know she has no idea who I am because she's never heard of me, because I'm not in the news. I'm not, popular on the social media platforms. And I'm not popular because I'm not trying to monetize. And nobody gives me a voice. But I'm there. And I know what I'm talking about. So this is once again managerialism and little high horse who thinks that she knows everything, and she doesn't. All of us victims turned activists, we're global. Nobody can recommend a lawyer because they're all out to lunch. Just like her. See, everybody thinks that they throw a lot of money at a lawyer and they're going to get, somebody who's going to defend them. No, the whole system, the only thing is make money, milk money, milk money, milk money. And of course, see, and Prince Andrew had to sell his chalet. Now the problem is all of these lawyers, particularly with Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, when it gets down to the end of the line, Prince Andrew has a lawsuit against his lawyers for all the fees that he paid for them, and recuperate all of the fees and then some because of the damages. Ghislaine Maxwell has the same lawsuit against her lawyers, and that's a hell of a lot more, because she sat for a year and she may sit for more years in jail being harassed because she's a rich white woman, and everybody hates rich white women. And why do they hate rich white women? Because they're all a bunch of bitches and just who want to, go shopping and spend their days at the country club, schmoozing with the girls and jet setting and going on luxury lots. And see, I'm getting that from everybody. And that's not the lifestyle I chose. I opted out of that. My Lord, I had it handed to me on a silver plate. I could have just plucked it up anytime I wanted it. But that's not what I wanted. I was very, very, very happy. I mean, a marriage. Well, I won't get into that. But, as a mother, if I had had a responsible, how shall I say, loving husband, but I had left the United States because I couldn't find one here. Oh, everybody wanted to get laid. I mean, this is, and nobody's changed. It's just gotten worse. And they've set the example for all of the Americans, kids coming out of colleges, and just flooded the market with a bunch of entitled narcissistic brats who just want to follow their parents' lead and grapple the ladder of success. Unfortunately, Andrew Cuomo, he's just another one in the cesspool. I mean, of course, his interest, unfortunately, Kerry Kennedy, his former wife, she's up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, along with Ethel. I mean, Ethel will be, I don't think Ethel is going to survive many, many more years, but all of the other Kennedy family, and this is another, where do Governor Cuomo's interests lie? With his country and as a public servant, and his dedication to his country, in the position that he's chosen during his career, or to keeping up the facade for the Kennedy family and Kennedy Cuomo now family, and the Catholic and influence, who are in bed with the Black Lives Matter people and the LGBT and the feminist. See, that's where you get the division. Those are the Democrats and the white supremacists. Now, logic would dictate that I would get support from the Republicans, because those are the conservatives. I've been liberal all my life. However, I am calling out the liberals because I'm like, you people are screwing things up. And you're wrong. You're just as bad as the white supremacists. And you're just pulling the same crap. But, and that's where you get, it's the alt-right. They're not going to give me a voice. I mean, my Lord, my mom's part of that. And when everything she did in the 80s to keep me out of politics, because she knew I would be a force to be reckoned with. In the political arena, but also in the business, but particularly the political, because that's where I started out. And I mean, all these interns and stuff like that, they get their jobs through connections. My mom threw me out of the house because I went and worked for a Democratic senator. I got the job on my own, well, offered it for a woman that I babysat, and my mom threw me out of the house because I went to work there. See, I'm not an entitled, privileged kid, and I got thrown out of the house. Story's a little long, or not a little more complicated, but that's how it ended. And she even had me do some stupid debutante party, I think. Well, now I know with everything, all of the pieces that I put together with the beans that she's built, that to find me a respectable husband that would muzzle me. That's also what her tactic was when I came back to DC in 2009. Gets into the whole Harold Robbins Dallas Dynasty story of mine, but I won't go there. But I'm going to finish up with this Rita Glavin speech at the end, saying, see, we knew this would have no foundation in Andrew Cuomo's case, and she did a good job, is what she's going to contend. I'm going to be like, okay, well, yeah, when we get down the end of the road, he's not going to be sitting pretty, and you're not going to be sitting pretty. So you can claim that you're doing a good job now, but I want to see you explaining how, where you're given a voice on internet, national TV that everybody's looking at, you are normalizing the fact that lawyers and prosecutors would go after people on absolutely ridiculous and politically and financially motivated malicious litigation, and that this is okay. It's not okay. Now, the oversight should be coming from the executive and legislative branches on this, and that's where Cuomo is in a conflict of interest, because this kind of crap has been going on all the time in New York courts. When he was governor, I forget which years his father was governor, and then he was in Washington. So this is where you also see the conflict of interest of the people in there, because they have been part of the rise of the Fourth Reich and the tactic of the right. Why has the right remained silent with all the cacophony that the left has been producing? Because it's in their interest. They just, the Koch brothers, they knew change would take time. Combating the inroads of the civil rights movement of the 60s and 70s wasn't going to happen overnight, unless, of course, they wanted to do a military type overthrow, which wouldn't have worked. So no, we're going to do it the woman's way, not through force, through changing the conversation, changing what's considered normal and what's not considered normal. And that was done through Nancy Reagan. It was done through the think tanks. We got a huge, and I mean, that's a huge, oh my God, those things need to be drained real bad. And that, it gets down to, it's all question of jobs. Because of course, it is what is needed to be done is done, then there are a lot of people in Washington, New York, the urban centers, who are going to be losing their jobs. Now, We can produce other jobs elsewhere in a redistribution, a more equitable redistribution throughout the country. So even if they lost their jobs here, they could be, retrained. But nobody wants to do that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we are where we are right now, because the Midwest, when, we had the manufacturing boom after World War II, everybody was living, pretty. And then probably 70s, 80s really ranked up, but it started before that of those jobs moving abroad, China, Taiwan. Well, China, because even with Taiwan, if the Midwest had been smart, they would have, instead of just, coal mining, or car factories, there's all sorts of different things. Let's retrain our people and become innovative business people and adapt. No, they were too complaining about losing their jobs. And we'll just go to the big city where the money flow is coming in for managerialism. And, it's too many chefs are spoiling the soup. Everybody wants to be chef. I'm like, aren't you people tired of this? And discotheques and partying all night. That's all anybody does. And I don't care if they're snorting cocaine or wine and champagne and caviar. It's exhausting. Sure, when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, even into your 20s, you need to sow your wild oats. If you don't, then you'll be doing it for the rest of your life. So that's the time to do it. But my Lord, to be doing it for 60, 70, 80 years, it's exhausting. So here's what my friend will be.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rita Glavin, and I represent Andrew Cuomo, former governor to the state of New York. This case has now been shown to be what it always was, which was a blatant political act by an astonishingly unprofessional and rogue sheriff. No jury would have found Ms. Camiso credible. That is why this case was dismissed. As the governor has said, this simply did not happen. Today, reason and the rule of law prevailed. Not politics, rhetoric, or mob mentality. Thank you.
See, not politics, not rhetoric or mob mentality. Okay. See, I got my client off. I'm the great Rita Glavin. It's all about their careers. And now she'll get lots of clients from this. It'll help her reputation and that'll get her more business. I think she even went, separate for this thing. That's always the agenda. And come in as a citizen of the United States. How are you not appalled that the courts and judicial system are being used for political and mob rule gain? As a citizen, and then as a lawyer, This is where a big divide with everybody in the legal community. I know, excuse me, you normalize this stuff. No, you should be the first one out there, up on Congress saying this is destroying our judicial system and the rule of law in our country, rather than, well, it is what it is. So anyway, that yeah, I had to respond to Cuomo's tweet today. I was gonna write a blog, but I'm too exhausted, and I'm in my ropes of looking for a job. Now this is gonna bite everybody in the ass when we get to the end of the line, when everything collapses, because I'm just gonna be using it. All of the lawsuits, every time I apply for a job. Okay, fine. I mean, hostessing jobs. Oh, my favorite. Most recent, Hillwood Museum in DC. Now that's Margie Merriweather Post. Beautiful museum. I love it. Well, I was already, discriminated against and passed over for a part-time job as in sales in their museum shop. I want them to show in court how whoever they hired is more competent and qualified than I am, particularly since one of my social media campaigns is based on we need to bring back etiquette and manners to this country, a la Emily Post. But see, of course, she was of the Gilded Age. In fact, her story is a little similar because her husband was a banker financier who bit the dust, and a scandal and all of that. See, this has been going on forever. So putting Ghislaine Maxwell up as the sacrificial lamb, oh, look, Cuomo has gotten free, but Ghislaine Maxwell is going to jail. It is what it is. It's a crapshoot. Well, no, this country was not, the founding fathers and the early colonists didn't come here to set up another, it is what it is. And, whoever is the biggest predator and whoever can exploit everybody else and the biggest con artist is the one who's left holding the bag. That's not what this country was founded on. People point out Chris Miller, he's right. This is a way of life that's at question here. Unfortunately, the alt-right and the alt-left, the way of life that they want to protect is that of exploitation of others, and con artists and sarsaparilla salesmen and the Wild West. So here's another video that Cuomo can ignore. Cuomo and his camp can ignore, and I just, as I say, all I can do is keep on producing more and more and more and more evidence for the international courts of and international community, if I can never get them to listen. See, the problem is they're just filled with scumbags. At the national level, they're all in bed together, so they need to be cleaned up as much as government agencies. That's why I fear that there's no solution, and this will end up in a bloodbath, because they're just, I've knocked on every freaking door I every time I come upon one, but every time it gets slammed in my face. So That's why the people behind me are breaking your doors down. Yeah, your stuff is what it is. I mean, I'm kind of like, excuse me, you do have children who are dying in wars and stuff. Is that just all collateral damage for you guys? Yes, it's a way of life as well as um, a way of thinking about family, about, you know, other people, whether other people matter, or is it just me, myself, and I, me, myself, and I? Again, you know, the those that want the me, myself, and I and want to protect the narcissism epidemic, you are a minority. This is the 10%ers, the 1%ers who hold all of the resources. Yes, you hold all of the resources. So you hold all of the weapons, you hold all of the jobs, you know, you have that power and control because of course people want to survive. And of course, that's why, you know, you've been working so much to increase the income inequality, because it does give you power over the have-nots, who then have to scramble just to be able to keep a roof over your head. I mean, my sisters, my siblings, even, you know, my younger sister, you just got to keep, you know, you better find yourself, you know, a job fast so you keep a roof over your head. I'm like, yeah, I know that's been the agenda of you guys for the past 15 years. You know, Xavier said that would be the you know, he even told me in 2007, he said, if you leave me, you'll have to prostitute yourself in order to survive. I was like, are you kidding me? I started working, I was like 14 years old, and like done everything. I can do anything. But no, since I'm a rich white woman who is not going to play nice with all of the psychopaths in power and just turn a blind eye to all of their shenanigans, like all of my contemporaries, I'm canceled. I love all of these new words that are coming. Canceled, normal, because they're on target. They're on target. Unfortunately, nobody does anything about it. They just come up with a new word or a new acronym and bitch and scream. So yeah, okay, well, as I say, Andrew Cuomo, here's another video that you can just ignore. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.